Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dojo. My name is Carmen, and we have Nothmar with us today. We do not have Ray and Sean, though. Hopefully, Sean makes an appearance in a little bit. It's been a crazy 2 weeks, so we took a week off.
Insane.
A lot has happened, so we're gonna try and motor through this. We always promise an hour-long show. We don't want to keep anybody for too long. So, Nothmar, let's just start with the drops, right? So if we are looking at the last 2 weeks of drops, what are you happy with? What were you unhappy with? How are you feeling?
Well, I mean, like I've been still on strike, so I'm trying to hold the line and buying anything for investment. But I mean, I do like the drops though, right? The drops have been fun. If you're a collector, how can you not love all these Star Wars drops, right? All the
Right.
comic books, Obi Wan, the lightsabers, the dark what do you call it, Darth Vader, and then like some keys, they're minor keys, but they're still nice comic books, like the first appearance of Nick Fury. So from there's the first Cable. Those are like nice books that that if you're a collector, I think they've been fun, right? It's kind of cool, like seeing all of these drops. I mean, my strategy is to buy in and wait for deals. So I finally bought one lightsaber that for like 20s, in the $24
Yeah.
range, So I was like, I'm probably gonna look for deals for the posters, when I see them drop a certain range, because I'm focusing more on just PC and less on investment right now. So
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. This idea of personal collection purchases and investment purchases, and maybe when's the right time to hit the switch, right, and make those moves. Yeah, the last 2 weeks have been great. I was really happy with. Well, it was weird. We caught some weird drops, like the first Rhodey, right? That Invincible Iron Man comic was,
yep.
Kind of hot. I skipped out on that. The New Mutants 87 is blowing my mind right now, mainly because so few people are on it. And it's the first Cable. I would say out of characters that people love, he's probably on that Mount Rushmore.
But the thing is, like for me, I mean, I have a nice Cable statue. I love Cable when I was an X-Men collector back in the days. But then, if you went on the big Vive group, a lot of people were asking, "Who is this Cable?" So a lot. He seems like he's not as mainstream as Deadpool still. Even though I told him, "Hey, he appeared in the last one of the last Deadpool movies. He's one of the key X-Men's, and he's one of the fan favorites, for X-Men collectors." I think there's still a good chunk of people in the Vive group that are not familiar with him. So that's probably why he also went under the radar. But also as a comic book though, I mean, in the physical world, that comic book is also high volume printing, right? So that's why you can get it relatively affordable. But there's some key books, like if you get it high grade, I had a multi-signed physical 9.8, which I sold for like 2,500 back in the day. So that was one of my biggest sales back in the day when before the movie came out. So I think there's upside, but then because there's so much available supply in the market, you can still get a nice Cable first appearance Cable physical copy of relatively affordable.
Yeah, but my brain kind of goes to we've talked about these things before. First of all, but this book is selling, but I don't think it's cracked $4 yet. I think it's between 3 and 4.
Yep.
And that's great news for us.
That's great news for us, right? I mean, I bought a few, but I mean, I didn't buy a lot yet. Probably just bought 3 copies. I'm waiting for it to hit like $3 or something. Then I'll buy probably a stack, right?
My rule has been I haven't paid more than $3.50 for it yet. And anytime it's between like 3 and 3.15, and the mint is like 15K or below, I've been pulling the trigger on it.
Yeah.
And because in my mind, I'm thinking eventually comic book people will get here.
Mm-hmm.
And that will absolutely be a go-to book that people will want out of all the collections, right? You're gonna get someone who's educated in comic books, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, why is this even at $10? I think it's a steal.
Yeah. I think $10 is a reasonable number for it to hit short term. and then
Yeah.
when it gets when there's more comic book people, it can go up to 15, 25, whatever, right? So
Yeah, I think it's a great investment book for sure. I think if you're looking at these drops and you're thinking, which books should I be investing in where the barrier for entry is very low? I think New Mutants 87 with Cable is one of them. What did you think? I'm curious to see if you still feel the same way. The Deadpool Mighties dropped. What are your thoughts on the Deadpool Mighties and then Mighties at large? Are you still kind of in love with them, or?
oh man, the Mighties killed me overall, right? So it broke my heart, right? So they were kind of bucking the trend. You know, I had a good laugh when you when I said like I'm sticking it to Carmen that they're like they were killing it last year, but then now they broke my heart, man. But I think they can still recover. I don't know if they're gonna go up really high, but they can probably, recover a little bit only because they're first appearances, right? So any first appearances, 5 years down the road when there's gonna be what do you call this? Like 10 or 20 different Captain America NFTs, you will look for the first appearance, right? So if you go for the first appearance, then that's gonna hold ground. So I think the first appearance Mighty's has like might recover down the road because Viv's gonna flood the market, right? They're gonna keep pumping NFTs every week, so there's got to be multiple Captain Americas gonna come down the line, multiple Darth Vaders. Like even Darth Vader, I think it's gonna dip. When they flood, have like Darth Vader 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 come out, and
Yeah,
then it'll dip, but then it'll start going up again when there's so many Darth Vaders and everybody's focusing on the first appearance, right?
right.
The Deadpool Mighties, I'm not big on. Like, I think they're PC stuff and they're fun, they're cute. I would get them for the PC, but I would not overpay for them. So
Yeah, I'm not anti-mighty, but I am not a believer in, a devout collector of mighties. But the one thing I thought was interesting in our group chat was some people went really hard on the duck, which was the secret rare,
yeah,
and that was interesting only because I think the comments were like their kids love them. And I thought that was interesting because I'm like, well, that's a world that I'm unfamiliar with, right? Like that's, so hopefully they're right. I hope everybody wins. You know what I mean? But
well,
I'm interested to see if people are collecting with their kids in mind more. You know what I mean? Then
I think they do. I think they do. I think a lot of people they when they say, "Hey, this is gonna be hot with kids," like even Mighties, I think like a lot of kids will like them, right? That's why I thought, and they have TV shows on Disney Plus for all
yeah,
these Mighties. I have to watch them so at least I can get into it, right? So, but I think a lot of it though is like it's all about demand, right? So is there gonna be enough demand for that duck? Mighty, I mean, we've never heard about it from a comic book collector perspective. I never heard of Deadpool Mighties, right? For the Doc or these other ones. So I'm not sure if the demand's gonna be there long term, unless Marvel has a Deadpool Mighty show coming up. Maybe that's the only
right,
thing that might and of course the anticipated utility for any of these, right? If there's a Deadpool world or metaverse that you need like Deadpools to survive, whatever, that's the only way probably long term. I would say these might have some more value.
yeah. And then we got the I can't believe they dropped this book. Coincidentally, I just bought one for myself because I got it. I think I got West Coast Avengers one.
Those adventures.
No, I got West Coast. I got that series at my local comic book store.
Oh,
I got 1 through 9 for $10, and I
nice.
was just like, oh, I'm gonna buy, like, for sure I'm gonna buy all. That's a buck 10 a book. I'll do that. And I knew that there were some weird wacky keys in that small miniseries,
Yeah.
and the fact that they dropped the Jeff the Shark Land Shark key book was interesting. The Sergeant Fury one's crazy because it's just such a hard book to get in physical. Like,
Yeah, no, I was looking at the physicals like the other week, when it drops. I was like, oh, maybe, but I'm kind of hesitant. Like I just like sold a whole bunch of books also, and like some of these lesser keys are not selling for a good price. So that's why, I would still focus on deferring majority to the major keys. I think I lost yeah, I don't know if, for example, if you bought this first Nick Fury, will you make a profit on it? I'm not sure. It's kind of high up. It's expensive, and it's a niche. So
super niche. It's a tough book to get in any grade.
yep, yep.
And what's wild, I didn't know this until a guy was telling me about it at the store. I think he got his graduate degree in history or poli-sci, but he did his senior thesis or his grad thesis on African American and Black representation in comic books. And apparently, and I didn't know this, the Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos book, there's a black soldier who's a part of that group. Okay. And on the front cover, he's portrayed as white. He's the guy with the trumpet. And apparently that was the demand, was make sure he's black on the front cover. And the artists, I forget who it was, refused to do it. And they ran it as a white guy. So later in the book, he's eventually a black man. But on the cover, it's hard to tell what his race is. And that was kind of a big deal, I guess, at the time.
Yeah, I think, see, the thing is, a lot of these comics are still not correlating to like significance. So I'm kind of like, definitely, come on, Nick Fury is important, right? He's a major character in the comic book world. But even in the movies, I think he is like some of the appearances that he did in the physical comics didn't translate as much into the movies, for example, right? Like I think for the what was that, the Ultron movie, right? In the comic book, like Nick Fury had a major part there, and in the movie, I don't remember him having a big part in the Ultron movie. So
yeah,
so that's why it's like I don't know. Some of these books may or may not like increase depending on how they're portrayed in other media. So I think a lot of it is still going to come back to just the collectors, right? Like if a lot of comic book collectors like really pick up on Nick Fury's, then it may go up.
Yeah. Now I loved the lightsabers, and I feel like the lightsaber drop was one of the most controversial drops of for a long time because it didn't sell out, right? Like that was it was the first, and everybody, I would say, since November, people were buzzing about Star Wars. Wait till Star Wars. We can't wait to get Star Wars. And Star Wars showed up, and these lightsabers didn't sell out. And I'm happy they didn't sell out. I rolled the dice because I just wanted to roll the dice, and I like gambling. So I tried to see what I grabbed, and for the $260 purchases, which I managed to land, I did two. I bought two, and then was like, wait a minute, they're still in stock. Like, let me relax for a minute. But I got two rares, so I got two Kylo Ren lightsabers. And then I waited for the Luke to crash, and it went down to like 25.
Yep.
And I grabbed two, and now it's finally they're finally sold out. And now you can grab a Luke it was as high as 60. I think it's settled back down to 45. I feel like out of all of the Star Wars drops, even more so than the Darth Vader, I just feel like the lightsabers just have maybe some future, because I like and this is just me speculating, the opportunity for future utility makes so much sense with the lightsabers.
Yeah.
And they're unique in and of themselves, whereas like the Vader, it's still not, your common, uncommon SR. That's the one thing that Disney does that I don't really love across all the figures. Like, I really don't like how there's 5 different types of the character when they drop, or in this case 3, right? Whereas DC, it's a little bit different, right? Like when it's one character is a common, another character is uncommon, and so on.
You're saying, yeah, I guess. I mean, the thing is, of course, the SR is the Ahsoka Tano's, right? So, I mean, I think Ahsoka Tano is red hot with, and her upcoming show is coming up. So I think, I guess they're, are people going to pay a lot more to get the Ahsoka Tano's? I'm not sure. I mean, it's a little bit low. It's not as bad right now. It's like a little bit high hundreds, right? Near 200. So
yeah,
for one of the is it secret rare? I think it's a secret rare, right?
It was, and it was as low as
Oh, okay.
I think it was as low as like 140.
Okay. Yeah, but I think yeah, I saw a lot of people complain. So the gripe is there, like there's so many mints, and then even the SR, it's still 5,000 plus, which is like around the number where some of the lower rarities typically are for comics. So they flooded the market, right? So they're
Yeah.
trying to get as much money as they can. So I think a lot of that, and I question it too, right? These guys are just doing a grab, a money grab, but I mean, like you said, utility is potential as a speculator. If they come up with a Star Wars game or they integrate this with my Oculus that has a Star Wars game, and then if you have some lightsabers and you bought it, you can get to another level or whatnot. So the potential is there, I would suppose. So but that assumes they partner with some of these games, right? To make utility of their lightsabers.
Right, which is, I guess, a conversation we can save for later in the show. Just this idea of, I think every season we've kind of had a different understanding, or at least I have. I've had a different idea in my mind for what utility could ultimately mean and where it seems like it's most likely going to go. Right, like there is this grandiose idea of utility where it's like Ready Player One, and I put on my Oculus and I can move through this space as this character, which I think is probably the most extreme version. And then like there's the most I feel like the most likely utility would be, using my mint as like a promo code so that I can access this thing in a video game,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
And just linking my VV account to Fortnite or something along those lines.
Yeah, no, I think that's I guess that's a speculation, and that's where there's a lot of upside, right? Like somebody posted on our group that said like, hey, you go buy a basketball NFT for the Warriors and you get free meals and stuff like that. So they can either do that, give promos or discounts or freebies if you go to a Star Wars like a theme park, right? So and then or you can have a game that you can fight. I'll fight Carmen's avatar with my lightsaber,
Right.
and then we'll just duke it out, and whoever wins, you just get more points or whatever, right? So
Right.
so there, I guess between those two, there is a lot of potential, and that's what we're looking down the line.
Now, the Obi Wan Star Wars comic. What are your thoughts? Do you think this is like? I don't love it. I didn't buy it. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I do think this is maybe VV nudging us and saying like, "Hey, expect super current publications to end up on VV, right? Like a new series might just show up on VV. Do you think that's something we're going to see?
What do you mean a new series?
So, and Andrew, we'll get to that. We'll have more discussion about utility in a little bit. Thank you for making that comment. So right now, that Obi Wan is a book that was published this year, correct?
Yeah, it looks like it's a 2022 comic that just
Right.
came out.
So what I'm saying is this VV kind of nudging us and saying like, hey, we're not just going to put old publications on this platform. You can expect new publications, current publications, and maybe eventually we might see publications that are exclusive to VV.
Yep.
Where you want to read the newest, I'm trying to think of something that maybe just ended. If you want to read the newest volume of Strange Academy, you have to read it on VV, and that sort of is what it is.
No, I think we discussed it a few times, like even last year, right? Like I think in the near future when they're not just doing one drop every other day. Now you have like weekly drops, and you drop some of the every new comic that comes out will be dropped in an NFT at the same time. So there's going to be a lot of comic books. So I don't see why not. Once they get that system like in place and it's stable, I don't see why not. Marvel's gonna say, hey, we want all of our comics available because we can probably make 100K for each NFT. You drop like 50 comics, that's like 5 million bucks. They're gonna try and drop every single new comic that's out there, right? So I think that's definitely gonna come, and then having original comics just on VV, hey, sure, why not, right? So they should definitely VV should probably, if they have writers and they commission artists, just have those just have their own independent comic book, right? So
Yeah, and I think it also gives us I eventually maybe if we can finally get like a cold storage like iPad or like a cold storage device where I can download all of my VV, or maybe because I don't need all 30 copies of my Black Cat on my cold storage. But, if I want to have my entire comic book NFT library, one of each on a cold storage device, that is a whole nother thing that seems like it's coming down the line, and that VV would probably be the leaders, right?
oh yeah, that one I might question a little bit. So those are the ones that I kind of questioned with Vive because portability is one of their problems, and I think I'm trying to determine some of the technical limitations of why they're not doing that. And I think I'll have to get back to you because I feel like even like for example, a lot of times when people want to have a NFT, it's because it's unique, right? Yes, sure. NFTs and Vive are unique from a database perspective. All those numbers, they're tracked in their blockchain in a database, right? But then the images, they're only using a single image that's the same for everybody. So when you download it, you're not really downloading a unique image. It's just a shared image, So that's why those board yacht ape club NFTs are cool because like you literally get one unique image of one whatever those things are, right? So and it's yours. So that image nobody else can share. Here, VV is just uh, dumping multiple numbers on the same image. So I don't think they're unique from that perspective. And that's probably, I have to think if that's maybe one of the reasons why it's not portable. So I have to think about it a little bit more deeper from a
Right.
technical perspective.
Right. Now the week rounded us out with the Star Wars posters, which I loved. I just wanted the New Hope because and this is from a complete collector's perspective. I want to make sure that the minute I can share my
Ayun.
vault with my friends, right? Like I want to make sure that I can have a link in my Instagram or on my whatever, and people can come into my vault and they see that A New Hope poster posted.
Oh yeah, you're right. Actually, now thinking about it, yes, I do want to update my virtual reality what do you call this music what do you call this exhibit and add some of those
Yeah.
Star Wars stuff. It'll be pretty dope, probably.
And that's one of those things, I guess, when you look at the uniqueness and the utility that's kind of built in, the minute that I can share my space, like almost like you do with spatial, that it's
Oh
an
man,
extremely unique experience that
yeah,
is
yeah.
very enjoyable.
You actually gave me an idea. I want to open one of the a Star Wars exhibit, so I'm probably gonna create one. But I need to buy some. I haven't bought any so far. I only got that one lightsaber, so I'll probably get some of the posters.
Got to start
Maybe,
stacking.
yeah, gotta start stacking.
And then, so the last thing was the Vader. We were all talking about it. The
Vader, yeah.
speculation was that it was going to drop at over 100 and few minutes. I did not think that was going to be the case. I was right about that, but I was wrong about what would happen to the value after market. I thought it was going to drop below 100, and it did, but I also thought it would stay below 100. I thought it would drop and then settle at like 50 for the common, and the common has taken off. Like it's got some legs,
Yeah.
and I'm shocked. Do you think this is so? The common right now is at 145.
Probably 140s. Dude,
Now,
there's still a lot of pumpers, dude. There's a lot of so everybody's gonna try to make as much money on the drops as they can. So I do see it going up because there's everybody's talking about it right now. So it'll probably keep going up a little bit. And then probably until the next really good drop comes in, then it'll probably slow down, and then maybe a month from now or two, it's gonna probably steadily go down, right? So
right,
that's what's happening right now. There's a lot of pumping. I do notice in a lot of groups, like a lot of people bought multiple copies and they're trying to make a profit, et cetera, et cetera. So there's still a lot of activity for Darth Vader. So it'll definitely be up and down for the near future
Yeah,
until.
I'm trying to figure out whether or not I want to flip and just sell mine. I bought it at 80. I could sell it right now for 145 and kind of ride off into the sunset.
But
Do
how
I
many do you have? Do you have one or do you have
just
multiples?
have one? And that's my
One's
problem.
one's harder. One's harder to get rid of. So I
So
mean,
I guess the one's hard comment we're going to use to sort of springboard us into the next sort of topic. We're going to talk about spending strategy, and I don't want to call it investment strategy
yeah.
because I think investment's different from spending. So the spending strategies that we've all, not financial advice at all, because we're nerds and we like buying stuff that nobody else likes to buy. So I have one of the things that I took advantage of during this dip was, and I didn't take my own advice very well. I got distracted and bought other stuff. But what I wanted to do was, while prices were low, go back in and get doubles of the things that I loved, so that if things pumped again, I would feel much more comfortable selling them.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit different than it's a weird dance, right? Because if sometimes I find myself saying okay, I'm going to buy, and I'm using these just as hypotheticals here. I'm going to buy a second Batgirl because I only have one. And right now she's at 1/10 maybe of her all-time high. So the come up is nice, but that is one strategy versus buying something that I think will double sooner than the Batgirl. And the other logic is, well, I could buy the thing that's going to double sooner than the Batgirl, buy it, it doubles, sell it, and then go buy the Batgirl, right? Like there's all these moving pieces.
Yep.
So what have you been focusing on here?
No, I mean, for me, I've mostly been PC only, right? The only times that I bought is like PC stuff. I bought that lightsaber. I'm still, because I'm already, I'm extremely invested already in Vive. I have like a ton of NFTs, right? So for me, I am debating getting some some of the big keys that drop, like the golden moments, like Elsa, like I mentioned, and Spider-Man and Wonder Woman a little bit. But then I'm looking at Flash. It's like cheap now too. It's like 60s. So I'm trying to debate like which ones are better deals. Like maybe even like what it calls Black Panthers are cheap. Is it like 30s, 40s? And then also comic books. Like I was thinking getting some more of America Chavez. They're fairly cheap. I really think she's gonna become a big name down the line. And then also NYX. I think I'm waiting for it to go down a little bit more, maybe hit fives, and maybe I'll get a few more. So it's a mix of like all of those keys, like for comics and grails. I'm looking for deals for.
Now, when you say, just for people who are unfamiliar, because I feel like it's very common language in the comic book world, but I guess for people who don't really get what we do, when you say PC, what do you mean specifically?
Yeah, so PC, sometimes when you buy something, you just want it as part of your collection. You don't really care if it's gonna go up or down. It's nice if it goes up, but then even if it goes down, more than likely it just stays in your collection, right? Because you're a collector, and you don't care. You care a little bit, but then it's gonna be really difficult for you to sell your one copy or one collectible like you have, right? So even for me, I have like a couples that, even Vive, I sold a lot of my grills already, but there's a couple that I only have one copy of, so I don't try not to sell those. Those are for the PC, so they're a personal collection versus an investment. There, I'll stack, I'll buy, as soon as it hits like 3x, 4x, 5x, 10x, then I'm gonna probably sell them and cash out or make a profit. So I think those are the differences. If you want to make money, you focus on investing. If you want to just collect, you just buy. I try not to overpay for PC. Sometimes I will do that, but like most of the time I try to be, because I have limited resources. We all have limited resources, right? So like if I got a PC book, I'll try to get the cheapest that I can get, and it just stays there, and I have a copy in my Vive or in my display here, right? So that's kind of like my strategy. It's rare that I'll get like a high end 9.8 copy or a secret rare just for the PC. I have done that though, but I try to be smart about it and focus on like the cheapest one, just so I have one in the PC.
Yeah, and that's, I think, people have to start. There's too much out there now, right? Like
Yep.
there are too many things that
Too many.
exist. So one of the things that I've started doing is not. I used to make the mistake of going into the marketplace and looking for things, and now I'm like, well, now that I know what I want, I now just go into my collection and then just see like if I have singles of things that I want to double up, or things like, if there's a new drop, that's a different story. But I try to provide myself with a little bit more focus. And for me, like, the investments are definitely on the 3, 4, 5 gem comics. I feel like that they at least have the best upside.
Yeah.
I rolled the dice on some secret rares that are pretty cheap. I think right now you can get some really good secret rare comic book deals that I don't think we're ever going to get again. That sounds dramatic, but like the New Mutants 87, the cable at 80 gems is absurd.
Yep. I was looking at that. I was tempted. So
Yeah, like the cable at 80, any secret rare comic, I think, that's under 150 gems, if it's a key issue and you like the character and you have faith in the character, is probably an immediate buy.
Yeah.
If you have the gems.
Yeah, I mean, for me, a lot of I buy a lot of SRs for investment, but then I do buy a few for the PC, and I open my exhibit too, right? My SR exhibit, and it's kind of cool. Like, oh, look at all my SRs. Like, it's kind of cool. Makes you feel good as a collector, right? To have a lot of SRs, right? So I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. So it's a good thing to from a collector perspective to get them. So. Now, and like you said, now's the best time to buy them because, like, if it goes up down the road 5 years from now, MTL's there, people buy in and out. As we believe, all these bigger investors come in. It's going to be harder to get SRs. Yeah, hey, it might double, triple, quadruple in value, right?
Yeah, inventory is getting obnoxiously low.
I don't trust it though. I don't trust the inventories. I don't trust it unless they show us sold listings. Then it's hard to tell, right? So
that's fair. I was looking at like I grabbed 2, and I mean, I don't know, this didn't really work out too well for me. Not that I lost a ton of money because they were so cheap to begin with. But I bought Hawkeyes because they were like 9 gems, and to think that a book that was dropped a very long time ago. So when I'm looking at some of these older books that are also Silver Age,
yep,
that are 9 gems or 10 gems, I feel like that's only a matter of time. And there's only, so right now you can get a common Tales of Suspense for, was it Tales of Suspense 57 for 8 gems, which is $1 more than the drop price.
Nice.
And there's only 79 left in the market.
Yep. No, I would definitely Hawkeyes, and I was looking at first Black Widow. They've been dropping in price, right? So I think those are something to look at. So they're cheap. They could definitely double or at least hit 15, $20, right? So
yeah, Tales of Suspense, and this number, so there's only 69 common Tales of Suspense 52s Black Widow. There's only 69 commons on the market. They were as low as like 950, I think, at some point in time.
Yeah.
And right now they're at 12, and 10 sales moves the needle up to $18.
Yeah, but I have a feeling once the prices go up, the floors go up again, everybody's gonna start listing again, right? So
yeah, that makes sense.
Actually, I've seen that a few times, right? So just because the numbers will go down, you sweep the floor and then prices go up, then next thing I know, I see 100 people list their books again, right? Because they thought the market went up again. So
right,
yeah, I'd be careful, but
yeah,
I would definitely, it's still a good deal. $11.99, in the $10 range for first Black Widow and Hawkeye. I think those are definitely. I think even I was looking at Doctor Octopus. I think it's is it in the 20s already? So it's you know, debating getting one or two more of those. Because they used to be pretty expensive, right? Like used to be like 50, $60.
Yeah.
So
And
now,
now is the time, I guess, for anyone, if you even bought in January at the peak. Like I know some
yeah,
people,
yep,
I know, and I'll use this one as an example. I know some people pulled the trigger on Wonder Woman at 1,700. But like, let's just do that math real quick. Right now, I mean, she was as low as 150 today.
you would have had 10 copies, 10 editions, right?
Right, but if you pull the trigger at 1,700 today, you could have dropped 300 gems, and if you bought, you know, off market at 0.5 or whatever, let's just say you didn't. Let's just say you bought gems from the store. So now you're at 2,000 gems all in, divided by 3. Well, now you're into her for 666.
Yeah,
Which is still a lot, but now you're not into her for 1,700 like you were. Now you've got 3 copies. You're in for 6 and change. If you believe in a recovery and you believe in that specific collectible, it just seems like a pretty easy decision.
yeah. I mean that's what we kind of tell people, right? If you when you buy a collectible, you have to believe in it, right? So when we bought into Wonder Woman, I bought into Wonder Woman. I have like 10 copies, right? So if I believe, because down the road I think she's, you know, a first appearance, she's a key character. I think easily it should go up to probably for now five, maybe 3 to 500. I mean, even 500. I'm a little hesitant hitting 500 now, but maybe let's say 300. You know, I think it's possible that she can get there once we have MTL and then we get more people coming in. So it is possible. So, you know, if Wonder Woman goes down under 100, you know, maybe I'll get one more. You know, maybe two. We'll see. I'm thinking about it, but you know, because I think, you know, as long as you have a strategy, right? When you bought a collectible for over 1,000, why did you buy it? Did you think it was going to hit 3,000? So now, do you think it's not going to happen? It's a stretch now, right? Because it's so far off. But you know, but you did believe that it would go up because she's a popular character. So where it is now for 170, I mean 200, 250, that seems kind of doable, right? If once the market picks up, you know, that it can hit 200, I think that's possible, right? So
Yeah.
so you got to have a strategy. You got to have an idea where when you buy a collectible, you know, is it going to go up in value because of demand or because it's a significant item, right? So
Yeah, and that's where I was on the before we even started the show. You know, I was talking about that Mickey hat.
yep,
Like
yeah,
that Mickey hat was as high as 5. I thought I got it at a deal at 3K. And
true,
I sold a ton of stuff to make that purchase happen. Now, granted, I'm not mad because I just sold stuff I already had. Like, it is what it is, right? That's just the
yeah,
nature. Hopefully, you know, you're trying to move stuff around, so it didn't. Like, I didn't toss 3Gs on a credit card. Like that is out of the question. But you know, now that the Mickey hat's down to 600, and my brain's like, well, you know, at some point I may pull the trigger. I may sell some stuff and pull the trigger on a Mickey hat, mainly because I believe in it, and then I'll just dollar cost average. Now I'm not into it for 3. Now I'm into it for like 18, I think, or something. Yeah, 1,800,
yeah,
which makes a little bit more sense to me. But then the game starts, like, my brain goes back to what we were talking about before, this investment strategy of rate of appreciation. Will the Mickey hat, let's just say, double faster than a Cable comic book or a Black Cat comic book or a Marvel comic one or whatever? Insert that other thing, because then the logic is if the other thing's going to double faster than the Mickey hat, maybe it just makes sense just to revisit the Mickey hat later and buy the other stuff that I think is going to double.
yeah. I think that's a good thing to look into it. Which ones increases faster? There's a concept in stocks that we call it's momentum, right? So if you think momentum is high or has more potential, then you invest in it. If especially if it's going up. I was debating getting, Elsa Iron Man, they're under 1,000 again. So I was like debating getting it. But then the thing is, the momentum right now is negative momentum. So it's going downward. So even stuff that I made sales, I think a few weeks ago when I made a bunch of sales and I bought a few NFTs, they all still went down. So I was like, oh man, the momentum is still negative. So I want to see momentum slow down, the negative momentum slow down before I probably buy in. And then, yes, follow your strategy and buy the ones that you feel like has more shorter term, quicker upside, and then jump on those, right? Because and then take profits if you feel like you want to cash out, right? So
Now, this is, I'm happy you
again,
used
not
that.
financial advice. It sounds like financial advice, but
But no, right. Like, I think
financial advice.
it's just, I think we're all navigating this a little bit differently based on how we collect and the things that we like. Now, when you said momentum, like, I think Vivi has, for whatever reason, has moved the goalposts on several different occasions.
Yeah.
And that movement has impacted momentum.
Mhm.
And more importantly, I think there are some objects that are less impacted, and then there are some objects that are more impacted. And this kind of leads us to utility, right? Because I think when you're thinking about value and you're thinking about utility, we don't really know what that looks like, or MCP, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
went MCP crazy for a while because
Yep.
I thought, my logic was I need to make sure I can secure my MCP because when Vader drops, I want to make sure that I can get the drop and the bots don't. And I know MCP is kind of my defense against that.
Yeah.
But since the MCP is kind of late, late to the show, the Vader drop still happened, and I'm looking around like, well, what was the point of all of this MCP? I'm still a believer in it. I still think it's valuable. I still think it's cool. But again, it changes the velocity and momentum of some of these objects because I'm less inclined to buy them because I can't see the impact, right?
No, but that's the thing though. If you feel like MCP and you feel strongly it's coming, I think yeah, it's 50, maybe I don't know, 60%, 70%, 75% it's coming. So then, so now you would look, these are deals then, right? So if you buy them now, it's gonna go up when MCP happens, and then everybody's trying to get the most points, so they can get better deals, etc. I mean, like I like speculating too. I do that a lot with comics, but like the thing is with these NFTs, I feel there's a major risk with them delivering utility. I think there's a major risk of them delivering even MCP. I think I lost confidence. Especially because of those bugs that happened to me. So I kind of killed some of my speculative excitement, for Vive. But if you do believe in MCP, which is there's a higher than 50% chance of it happening, hey, then it's everything is a deal now, right? So, dude, get as many SRs as you get. If MCP happens, you're gonna get a lot of points, right? So,
Right.
so it depends on your strategy. If you believe strongly MCP is coming still, then hey, get as many rares or ultra rares or SRs that you can get, like that are cheap, and then and when it happens, then you're gonna be rewarded is what the goal is to be, right? So I
Right.
mean, personally though, I try to buy a couple of sets just to complete it for fun, and I got burned a lot, right? I bought a few and they all halved or went down in 2/3 the price just the past. So that's why I was like, now I kind of hate MCP too because it forced me to buy stuff I didn't normally buy, and I overpaid for them, and now they lost so much value, right?
Right. And that's really the tough part. I mean, like as far as MCP goes, the Electra collectible is arguably the ugliest collectible on the platform right now.
But
But
I got two SRs of the Electra,
dude,
and they still went down in value. So I was like, oh,
like
man.
the SR right now, though, I think you can get for 75 gems. You
Oh,
can
man.
complete that whole Electra run. I think, for like 120 gems, maybe less. So but again, if you're an MCP person, that makes sense. But if the MCP never shows up, you kind of just wasted opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that SR Electra, I think I got those for like 180, 200. See, I lost a lot of money now there too, right? So I don't know. I think we got to stick with the strategy. Well, depends, right? If you're sticking with the investment strategy, look at the ones that you feel like are gonna go up. You know, I wouldn't even like MCP is like a minor factor into it all. But don't just invest and say, oh, it's gonna go up double, triple because of MCP. I think that might
Right.
be that might burn you, right? So get ones that are good deals. I think that's still the strategy, and then try to find ones that you feel strongly it'll go up to 3x to 5x. I think that's the strategy.
Now, as far as value, like what do you think is the most likely utility
Hmm.
that we will see from VV? That is probably the easiest to especially because of your background. What do you think is probably the easiest to implement? If I'm VV and I want to implement some utility that makes sense to consumers,
Yeah.
which makes the most sense?
The easiest might be like you get a discount or you get like access to events, right? So because there they'll just say, hey, you have this utility, you go in 20% off, so that's easiest. The harder one is to do the metaverse. That's hard, right? And to do games, to do metaverse activities, that's a lot harder. Even Facebook is like trying to pivot there, and they're losing a lot of money right now because they're even saying that you're not gonna see much much gains from that investment for a few months or years or quarters, right? So if a company as big as Facebook is having challenges implementing that, V will probably have a lot of challenges. If they do that, they'll probably release some very simple game or buy a game, maybe, and just integrate that so it's easier to do versus building one from scratch. Implementing it's hard. So it's easier definitely to use the utility of getting discounts to events or comic books, maybe get a deal on new comic books or whatnot. That's probably the easiest thing that they can use they can build from a utility point of view, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was thinking too. I remember when we first started this, it was like, oh man, imagine being able to run through the metaverse and access Gotham City
Yeah.
with
But
because
we're dreamers. That's why.
oh for sure. Oh, and it's fun, and
We're
I
nerds.
I think eventually you might see that, but I think the more we're watching this play out, it seems like the most common utility, I agree with you, is probably going to end up in the form of a coupon code or some sort of access to an event.
Yeah.
Um,
Or the comic books. The comic books are already there, right? Just create a library like a same. They already have those rooms, right? They create the VR rooms, right? Just let us display them, take them out, and then bring them out. So at least it's there, and then you can open it, read it. Make the reading experience better. They already have the zoom feature and the tilt feature, so there is some utility with comics already. So they just need to keep building on there. So I think the comics they already have utilities. They just have to build a little bit more, create a display VR, so it's people can show off their comic books. So I feel it's cool. I love creating my VRs and the spatial ones, and I shared it to you guys. And I sometimes just go in there and I look at all my nice comic books, right? It's kind of cool.
and that's one of the things that I think I'm most excited about is being able to navigate. And I was not a huge believer until you started sharing those spatial um, showrooms. And once you get in there, you're like, this is kind of cool. Like just the idea of being able, it's like going to an art museum. Like, why do people go to the art museum? It's kind of for the same experience, right? Like, you could, if you wanted to go to the Philadelphia Museum of Art, which I recommend you do because it's gorgeous and it's awesome.
Get to go. Yes.
But oh, dude, it's awesome. But anyway, so you go.
We love art too. We go to all the museums here in New York, but that's before the baby. So once the kid gets bigger, we'll start hitting all those museums again.
Yeah, and those experiences are great. And for people who say things along the line of like, well, you can just look at it on your, why do I need to do these things? It's like, well, the same reason that people go to art museums, and it's for the same reason that people like to go experience every other things, right? Like, it's the same reason why I think, if a friend posts, if a friend goes on vacation and they say, hey, I went to whatever, New York City, and I've got 30 photos of all the things that I saw in New York City. We don't need those photos. I'm sure there are other photos that exist in the universe that are probably better done that will show you all of these places that this person went to, right? Like the Statue of Liberty. But we still click on the person's photo album and we still move through the photo album just to see what those experiences were like, right? Because they were curated by that person.
Yeah, I mean, they can actually take it to the next level, right? Actually, the first guy that I saw that spatial like VR actually had some nice design. I tried to keep mine simple to make it feel like a normal exhibit, but then I saw you can definitely put like your own touch there, right? Like make some bigger, put splash pages and share it, and then put some pizzazz there depending on how you want to share your view of sharing your collection. I think even in the Vive group, there's one guy who makes really cool. You've probably seen it, right?
I have seen those like mashups, right?
Those mashups. That's pretty awesome, right? So imagine doing those on VR and then showing it out. That's what he kind of did, right? It's kind of pain in the butt to do that, but like those are kind of cool. And once you get to share different styles of how to present your collection, that's pretty awesome.
Now, for anybody who's watching that is unfamiliar with Spatial, real quick, how did you find Spatial and what is it?
Well, Spatial, I did see one guy and he was showing off his collection in one of the groups, and I investigated it. I was like, oh wow. I thought we were looking for a VR we're waiting for Vive to allow us to display comics, and this guy is showing off his comics. So I reviewed it and I checked it and I tested it. And I was like, oh wow, it's so easy to post your comic book. So I checked, and not just create one. Like I was able to make multiple ones, right? So it's cool. I was able to make different themes of like exhibits. One is my SR exhibit. One is just everything together. One is just my grails. So it's kind of easy to do that. So you can kind of present. I want to create a Star Wars now, right? So it'll be cool to create a Star Wars spatial exhibit. So I think that's the future. But the only limitation there, though, is they're mostly two-dimensional. So it's not like in Vive. So if you get like all these 3D collectibles that are 3 or 4D or whatever, right? You can see them, you can go around them, and you can actually maybe, I don't know, interact or put them like a statue in the middle of the exhibit. I think that's the dream that we want Vivi to do. That's kind of the goal. And like we'll have virtual exhibits. I wanted to create a virtual store, so I was gonna price all of my NFTs there too. So if somebody goes in, they can see how much I'm selling them for. So there's a lot of other potential utilities that you can probably do if you add more features and get creative, I think.
Now when you display your Vivi NFTs, whether it's a comic book or a collectible, you screen grab from Vivi and then upload that.
Screen grab it. Yep. Sadly, it's only a screen grab, so it's not like it's not that you don't see like the actual full 3-dimensional like thing. So anybody can actually just screen grab a copy and then post it on your exhibit. So
right.
Ideally, it's to protect some of your collection. They should verify that hey, this is on your blockchain. Guaranteed, yes, Nothmar owns it, and nobody can move it from that picture display. Hey, why is Carmen? I'll get an alarm. Carmen is trying to like read the comic, so at least I'll know. Oh, Carmen's checking out my comic book, right? So et cetera, right? So hey, maybe comic book rentals. Hey, you want to read the comic? 1 gem. Read my comic book for a first cable appearance. Just go to my comic book virtual exhibit, and you just pay $1. You can read it. You don't have to buy it, right? So.
Yeah, and I think the long term, it's in everyone's interest. So hold on, it says Brooklyn Museum first. We got a comment from Facebook user. Brooklyn Museum first Saturday of each month. Target used to open the museum with live music, dancing, and a bar. It used to be a lot of fun. Yeah, like that sounds like a great experience. Target, the company, would do it. It's pretty sick. So
Yeah.
when we're looking at, I think when we're looking at utility and we're looking at experiences, I think we're probably going to end up moving more and more in that direction, right? This idea of just being able to display things,
Yes.
just being able to look at things. One of the things that I've started doing just to try to generate interest, I think my friends think I'm nuts, but I've now like posted a video to Instagram where I'll screen record me moving through my vault, and then I'll post that to like my Instagram story just so that people can see what this may eventually look like. I wish I didn't have to screen record and move through it and then share it. I really wish that it could just be in my little link tree where it's like, want to see Carmen's VV vault? Yes, and it just brings them there and they can walk around in it. But again, that's probably farther down the line.
Yeah, yeah. No, and that brings the point, right? That's why I'm on Viv a little bit, that VV a little bit, that their drop business and their marketplace and their display business should be separate entities altogether. So, because like right now they're only focused on the one that's giving them a lot more cash, which is the drops, right? And the the exhibits, that's slow moving in improvement. The marketplace is slow moving improvement because they're all focused on what's giving them the quick cash, every week, right? So ideally, that sadly that's the one downside that I see of having a closed marketplace, right? So they don't have enough, they don't open it up to other vendors or developers to create and new advanced features and functionality. Now we're just waiting slowly, painfully for new features and utility come, because it's VV doesn't have the manpower, and they're focused mostly on, right now it's only MTL and it's only mostly the drops, right? So they don't have the manpower. So that's one downside that I see. That they ideally, it should be separated, or it should be different business units. So that way, the marketplace by itself can grow 10 times more if they add, buyer protections or new functionality for the exhibits. Like you said, add new features like what you mentioned. People can scroll through, or you can add more displays, or comic book displays are there. Or you can rent furniture or whatever. Invite people to your V room or whatever. There's so many functionality that you can do with the virtual reality room, experience. So that's what I think, that's the thing that's keeping them, making their progression slow, because they're only mostly focused on the cash cow, which is the drops, right? And
Right.
because everybody's been finally has been complaining, so they finally have to put it top priority.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess to wrap up, even though your purchasing has changed a bit, if you got your eyes on one thing, if you had to pick one thing off the top of your head that you're sort of eyeing in the marketplace, what is it? Or are you not making any purchases because you're looking forward to a new drop?
Well, there's two. The high end ones, the Superman and the C3PO, and Elsa, if they get like much cheaper, I keep looking at it, and if I have enough gems at one time, maybe I'll consider buying them. But then I'm more of a bottom dweller, right? So I like the really cheap stacking. So I'll look for key comic grails to be cheap, like the Werewolf by Night, or or the Doctor Strange, or the Amazing Spider-Man, the first Doctor Octopus. Wait for those to go under $15. Then maybe I'll get a few more. But I'm more likely to go towards that bargain route, because I like deals. I don't like to overspend. So
Now, when you're talking about, let's just say Werewolf by Night, are you leaning more towards the common or are you leaning more towards the SR?
always the common, but the SR, anytime the SRs are like under 300, and then I would review it. I don't like paying more than 500 for SRs right now, because a lot of them have been like dipping hard. So I would only look for SRs if they're under 300 or 200 probably.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Nice. Well, it's been an hour. Nothmar, thank you so much for your time. Everybody who is at home, thanks for hanging with us in the dojo. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them. Feel free to shoot us a message. We will get back to you next week. See y'all later. Nothmar, take it easy, bud.
Take it easy.